You're watching Stewart Spotlight Podcast live with your host, William Stewart Jr. with topics of everyday life, tune in every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Today's guest, Prophet Dr. Robin. Military, pastor, singer, songwriter, a woman with many gifts. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode. Now your host, William Stewart Jr. Good evening and good evening. Welcome to Stewart Spotlight Podcast Live. My name is William Stewart Jr. and I am your host this evening. I hope everyone had a wonderful week and getting ready for the weekend. Another exciting weekend. You know, the weekend will go by so fast. By the time you blink, it's back to work for Monday. But before I get started, a friend of mine, my best friend, called me before I went on air, Daryl Williams from Chicago, and he wanted me to pray for him. I don't know what he's going through right now, but this is really odd for him to call me at the very minute before I go on air. But I'm going to let you know, I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you. As we go on with the show, today is Friday, February the 28th. The 28th of February, the 28th of February. And, you know, it's that time, because I'm not going to prolong this. I want to bring my guest on because she has so much to talk about this evening. But you know, I got that little special little thing right now, but I need your support. And I need you to do this.
There's a little song that we sing in our movement down in the South. I don't know if you've heard it, but it has become the theme song. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome. Though I join hands so often with students and others behind jail bars singing it, we shall overcome. Sometimes we've had tears in our eyes when we joined together to sing it, but we still decided to sing it. We shall overcome. No, before this victory's won, some will have to get thrown in jail some more, but we shall overcome. Don't worry about us. Before the victory's won, some of us will lose jobs, but we shall overcome. Before the victory's won, even some will have to face physical death. But if physical death is the price that some must pay to free their children from a permanent psychological death, then nothing shall be more redemptive. We shall overcome. Before the victory...
I need your support. I need you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and make sure you turn on your notifications so therefore every time you hear this, you know that Stewart Spotlight Podcast is live. Yes, you heard the Black History Month because today is the last day of Black History for the month of February. But as I'm about to bring my guest on, my guest, Prophet Dr. Robin, served in the military, a pastor, a singer, a songwriter, and the list goes on. But I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to let her explain it. Without further ado, let's welcome my guest, Prophet Dr. Robbins. How are you, Doctor?
Hello, God bless you. I am doing well. How about yourself?
I want to thank you for appearing on the show this evening. I know that you have a very busy schedule, but thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to just appear and just to talk about a little history about yourself. So how are you doing and how's your family?
Well, I'm doing great because today is Friday, so I'm excited about the weekend.
Okay,
It's been a long week.
Okay, I truly understand that. So let's just get started. How many siblings do you have in your family?
Oh my! So I have about 10 siblings. My dad and mom together. We have about 10 siblings. So I am the youngest one out of my siblings and my family. So seen a lot of things.
Okay. Now, I read your bio. Now, I believe you start singing at the age of 5.
Yes. So I said the Rogers family, my dad's side of the family more so are pretty much everybody sings. My aunts and uncles, more so my aunts got scholarships to universities for singing with music. So my family growing up, I've always been around music. If you don't play an instrument, you sing. And some people do both. So since I was a child, I've always been around for family gatherings, everybody singing around the dinner table or singing in the living room. That was kind of like what we did when we got together. So I've always been surrounded by music. I've always been singing with music, but I didn't look at it as something that I should do for the rest of my life type of thing, because I've always been around music. I've always been singing. I've always had an ear for music. Not realizing, I knew it was a gift, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it because it was kind of like a first nature to me,
Okay.
based on how I was raised.
So basically, you were embedded with all this musically inclined talent at the table, at the dinner table.
Absolutely. With all my aunts and cousins and uncles, my dad, everybody sings. My mom's side of the family, nobody really sings,
Okay.
but I'm the only one that really sings as far as with music and stuff like that. And we do have family members that really didn't tap into the music, but they sing, but they don't really care
Okay.
for it like that, But if we all sing, everybody come together, they're gonna sing.
So
Type of.
did you play any kind of instruments or just sing it only?
No, I have played the piano by ear, not
Okay.
by skill,
Okay.
by going to school to play, but I can't play by ear. If I hear something, I can replay it on the piano just by the notes.
Okay. So what type of music do you like?
Well, one, I was raised with gospel music, definitely R&B, I mean, born in the 80s, you're going to be around, the Isley Brothers, all of that stuff. A lot of people have stories or can relate to cleaning up with the, old school, with the 80s music,
Right.
and 90s music as well. So I've kind of had a diverse background because I've always had a love for music. As a young person, I used to write down, not even realizing that I had the skill of writing music. I would always write lyrics to songs. I would
Wow.
study the way they structured the music. And I was just so fascinated with that. I would keep a notebook and I would just write down things that I heard, because when I sung the song, I wanted to know the lyrics. And that was just something with me as a teenager growing up that I didn't ever think about. Every Christmas I asked for a radio. I didn't realize, why am I always asking for a radio? Everybody else want dolls and toys and clothes. I want music. I want radio. I want a headphone. I want, a cassette tape player. I just wanted things it did not dawn on me till later. I really need to tap into this music gift because I'm always doing something with music.
So now, when you were at the age of 5, now did you sing in a choir or the youth choir at that age?
Well, I'll start like this. My mom was pregnant with me in the choir with a choir roll. So I've always, I mean, since
That's it right
my
there.
my mom and my dad sung in the choir, in the church choir.
Okay.
Like I said, she carried me 9 months in the church choir. That'd be rehearsals. And then when I was born, I was in the church choir. They called me the choir baby type of thing,
Okay.
growing up. So I was always around music and in rehearsals and stuff. And I always had an ear to sing. And I was singing with the choir before I know it. And I remember being handed the mic at a young age, especially, growing up in the church. We have Easter speeches. Children are always on program at some point.
Right.
So I was able to get those opportunities to display that gift.
Okay. Now, were you ever in a competition, a church competition or a group competition at that age from 5 all the way up?
I was not in a competition per se, but I did, as I got older, I started singing on the praise teams, the youth choir, they call it the intermediate choir, So I
Yes.
sung in various choirs. I even participate with different events with the Soul Children of Chicago, with Walt Whitman, different things they had that was embracing young people. So I would always tap into those things around 15 and 16 that they were allowing youth to be a part of. So I always plugged in and, was kind of moving around. A lot of rehearsals now because it takes, as a young person, you have to be in the rehearsals when you're in all those choirs. So I spent a substantial amount of my life in rehearsals, singing songs, learning songs to where I was able to teach songs as a music director myself down the line because I had so many years of experience and knowing how to teach music and just skillfully bring people together. One of the things I discovered that I was able to get anybody to sing, people that really didn't know how to sing, or I can get a group of people together and just teach them how to find their voice. And I think that's very important.
Okay. Now, when you were going through grammar school, high school, have you ever worked with different artists or local artists?
Well, going through high school, I was in the high school choir. So we actually did touring. I didn't sing as a teenager with a local artist or anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, I had both parents in the home, so they allowed me to do things with my high school choir and things of that sort. They wouldn't let me go off with per se with an artist or anything like
Okay.
that. I didn't do those things until I got older. So
Okay.
where I was able to, stand on my own 2 feet for sure, as an adult and be able to sing and, especially in the city of Chicago, so much going on. So absolutely.
So basically, you were raised in a musically inclined climate that it just embedded into your soul that you just think
Yes.
of music all the time. So now you went through grammar school, you went through high school. Now you decide to get out of high school and you went into the military. What? Explain this a little bit.
Well, when I got out of high school, I went to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
Okay.
I spent my time down there for 4 years. I also sung in the University Black Chorus Choir, where we actually toured across the United States under Ollie Watts Davis, Dr. Ollie Watts Davis, and learned a lot of skills through there. Learning more to be vocally trained with music and stuff, a little more structure and more book music from the university standpoint, because it was actually a class. I wasn't just a part of the choir, even though they had, traveling and things of that sort. So after I finished college at U of I, then I decided later on, it was more of a bucket list type of thing because I was in the JROTC in high school and I was very involved with that. I was, when I graduated, I was the colonel for the high school, the JROTC program, and that was Air Force at the time. And we were the only Air Force JROTC in Chicago. And I was able to serve on the brigadier staff of the city of Chicago, where we would post colors for the Mayor Daley, Richard M. Daley, for the meetings and things of that sort. So I did a lot with the military prior to joining the military. I'm really kind of setting so you understand that, I always knew that I would have some type of form of affiliation with the military. When I graduated, I did get a 4-year scholarship to any school of my choice, but I also had a 4-year scholarship to West Point University for the military. And I turned it down because I did so much with the military. And plus, when you're 18, 19, you're just like, okay, I want to be closer to home. I don't want to be that far. I have to travel. So I always said that military will be my bucket list. So me joining the military, this is after college. This is after working in corporate. This is after running my own business. So I said, let me go into the military. I don't want to be too old. There is a time difference. So, age difference. Let me join the military and be able to kind of get that on my bucket list and so on and so forth.
Okay, I apologize because I missed that point because from high school, so you went to college, to U of I, and what was your degree in?
My degree was in speech communication.
Okay, so therefore after that, then you start doing the working and things of that nature before you went into the military.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I apologize for that. So now,
that's okay.
What was your responsibility in the military?
Where I work, what we call quartermaster, which is like field support services. I did a lot of HR work. I did a lot of different things in the military. And for some reason, they always end up placing me in a position of like a chaplain. I was always praying over programs. They, we'll get her to do it. They knew I was a spiritual person, but I was also involved with a ministry where I was stationed in the military, which was Fort Drum, New York. I was involved with a ministry called City of Refuge Christian Church, where I served. And that's actually where I got trained in ministry, licensed as a minister, and then ultimately ordained as a minister while I was simultaneously serving in the Army.
Okay.
So that all happened at the same time. I always say that, God set me up to go to the military to not just get that discipline, but also get spiritual discipline and be able to be trained in my gift and my calling and what God has called me for.
That's great. So it's a twofold. You was doing service and you was serving the Lord at the same time.
Absolutely.
I like that. So now, when did you leave the military? How long did you stay in the military?
Well, total, because I did reserve first and then the active duty and then kind of a little more reserve. So I had a total of about 7 years that I was able to serve both combined with that. But it was a great experience. I was able to meet, of course, a lot of people because you meet so many different people coming through the military. But most importantly, I was able to build in a spiritual sense, build my spiritual capacity to be able to serve, God's people and to be able to come back. One of the things that stood out was, God told me to come back to Chicago to open up the ministry and to begin to minister to his people. And that's what ultimately how I came back to Chicago to bring that. And I was more so in isolation. Let me add that I was by myself in military. And I always tell people, when God calls you or when he's getting ready to appoint you into something, he would first separate you into isolation so that he can impart himself into you as it relates to your assignment.
That's very interesting because I had a minister on about 3 or 4 months ago, Reverend Richardson, and he said the same thing because he served in the service, and he said that God was using him in twofold by training him different things, but coming out as a ordained minister. But he, went through the format when he went to after the service. So now, when you came from the military, did you go into the ministry, or did you decide to work, or what's the progress from there?
Well, coming back from the military, so to speak, I say quote unquote, I was already doing ministry full time. Let me add that. I was doing ministry full time before coming back to Chicago. So when I came back to Chicago, I started doing ministry here as well, in Chicago. So, just teaching and doing Bible studies, ministering at different places and stuff like that. Wherever God pretty much sent me on assignment, that's kind of where I went to serve.
But you were ordained in the service.
I was ordained while I was in the military.
Right, okay. Gotcha.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so now, when did the doctor come involved? When did you get that degree as being a doctor?
Okay, absolutely. Well, first I obtained my master's in business administration. That was a time I spent there. And then I went into the doctoral program for a doctor of education for organizational leadership is what my doctoral degree is in. I achieved that through National Louis University. It is a earned doctorate. I like to say that because a lot of times, it's not an honorary doctorate, which I don't knock honorary doctorates, but I actually had to write. I had to do a residency. I had to, do research, so it came with time. It normally takes about 4 years to get a doctorate degree, but I was able to do mine in 2.5, which is how I was able to build a doctoral boot camp, which is one of the things that I offer, coaching and consulting type of thing. I started doing that as well.
2.5 years versus a 4-year? You were in the books then, huh?
Well, I doubled some classes and stuff like that. I mean, of course, it comes with a double workload as well. But if it's something that you can handle, you definitely want to go for it.
Okay. Dr. Robin, can you stay around for one moment? We're going to do a little small commercial, and we'll be right back with Dr. Robin. Hold on one moment. We're back with Stewart Spotlight Podcast Live. My name is William Stewart. I am with the Honorable Prophet Dr. Robin. I like to put that out there like that. So now, you received your doctorate. Okay, what about the pastor? You were a pastor at a church.
Absolutely. I pastor Rise and Thrive Ministries. Right now, the ministry is online. I fluctuate between in person and online, but the ministry has been going for quite some time now. And I've also been doing ministry, just, as I said, speaking engagements and things of that sort, and just basically teaching and spreading the gospel and what God has called me to do.
Wow, wow. Okay, I'm just going to do a little small recap for individuals who haven't seen some of this. Now, while you was brought up as a singer, well, as at 5 years old, the singing was all around. You're musically inclined. You went through high school. You was in the choir. You was different groups. You went into the military after you received your degree of U of I. You went into the military. Then you came out the military. Then you decided to do some pastoring. Then you start getting your doctorate. Where does it stop? Where does it stop?
Where the goal in life for everybody is they should want to die empty. Everything that God has placed inside of you is not for yourself, it's for the world, it's for the nation. He said, go ye therefore. So there is an assignment to everybody that everything that God has placed inside of you was not for yourself, a gift to yourself, but it's a gift to the world for you to continue to give that out, what God has placed in you.
Okay, now you have sung and record with different groups. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I've actually I've always kind of been the person that people know, one, I can hold my note. They know I can sing. They know I can, learn the music in a short period of time. So I've always been that person that people have called on to sing background, to fill in. And I've also been called on to sing myself, so on and so forth. And I think that's just the life of a musician. You're kind of, when you have the passion for music, you love what you do. It's really, you just do it. You know what I mean? It's not nothing that you're just kind of like boggled down on. And as I said before, I always had a passion for it. So it was just a joy for me to just be amongst other artists or to just be singing or whatever, until I said, well, wait a minute, I've done this for so many people. Let me actually do what God has called me to do, in my own right, what I have stood on, what I have done for so many years that people have asked me to sing for them. Let me do it for myself. And that's kind of where I am now, to be able to give my gift back and say, no, I have a gift as well. I don't have to just, be helping people all the time, because I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't think. I'm like, okay, I've been successful in my life in business and, in just ministry and doing multiple things to where I've done very well for myself. But when it came to music, I never looked at it as to do it as a full career. That's totally different. Okay. You always hear about the starving artists or people trying to make it. When you look in the music industry, everybody's trying to get to the top, the pinnacle, or to the top, or whatever the case may be. I never looked at it like that because I really enjoyed music. I loved being around people that were creative and artistic and those things in that nature. I never looked at it as something that's just, monetize money, money, money. That wasn't me,
Okay. Now,
but however, I know that's a saying that money's not everything, but it's ranked with oxygen, if you understand what I'm saying. You need it to survive.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Now, you also found a Chicago group called the Church Girls.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the Church Girl.
Well, I was a manager for the Church Boys. I don't know if you heard of the Church Boys of Chicago, which was a quartet group out of Chicago, pastors that came together and was singing. And I managed that group for a time. And I used to sing. And sometimes when the group members couldn't make it, the engagement, I would fill in and sing all of their parts because I knew everybody's parts. I would travel with them and things of that sort. And I'm saying, I'm not a church boy. I said, I need to start the church girl. So I end up recruiting and going out, or be able to recruit across Chicago, some of the singers that I had grew up with, I knew about. And I took it to them and I said, we need to start the Church Girls group. And we all got together and had a meeting. And we began to do that across the city of Chicago, singing at different things and participating and doing the same thing, so on and so forth.
Now, how long did that last?
Well, that was actually before I went to the military. So they actually continued on after I left. Obviously, once I went to the military, I wasn't able to be back and forth like that. But they continued on. We actually did a recording before I left. We did a live recording and things of that sort. So we did have our own music. We wasn't singing other groups' music. We were singing our own songs, and we was able to record that. And they did some other things going on after that. I don't know if they're not singing right now. We just did a reunion a couple of probably 2 months ago.
Okay.
We just did a reunion here in Chicago to sing, and we hadn't sung together in such a long time.
Okay. Now, you also sung in live stage plays.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, some of this stuff is a blur because it was so long ago, and when you've done so many different things, of course, especially one being the military, you got to learn so many different things,
Right.
plus being in school. I mean, some of that stuff is a blur. I'm gonna just be honest with
Right.
you.
I understand.
But yeah, I was able to participate in a play. I just remember being backstage. I mean, waiting on your cue, coming in. And again, in these situations, they needed a singer, somebody to come on, learn the music fast, somebody that can catch on and get on stage and go. And that was kind of like, I was kind of known for that person. We can call on her. She's dependable. She's going to know her part. She's going to sing, and get in there. So I was able to participate on that level.
Oh, wow. Wow. A woman of many talents. Now, you have an album coming out next month.
Yes. Next week, actually.
Oh, it's the first week in March.
Right. It's March 8th. It's
March
the
8th.
album.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what's the album about?
Well, the album is called The Prophecy.
Okay.
Okay. This is the first album that I am releasing. I did release a few songs prior to this particular album, and those songs will be on the album, of course.
Okay.
But the album is The Prophecy is just about, the life struggles and things that I've experienced personally and how I was able to overcome adversity, how I was able to overcome naysayers, how I was able to overcome obstacles in life and be able to give those tools and nuggets to the world and be able to share what God has done, most importantly. And the music is not gospel. It is different. I didn't want to really have a gospel type of churchy type of songs and music, but I wanted to have music that will reach a community that probably won't never come to church, if that makes sense. Those people who, that don't look at church like that, probably would never step foot in there. But if they hear these songs, I'm literally singing scripture, and to be able to minister to the heart of man directly without going through going through the stages of going to a church and getting into the program. I always tell people that, God hates religion, but he loves relationship. If I can get straight to the people and teach them what the word of God says so they can build a relationship with him through his son, that people can be free in their own individual lives. And that doesn't take doing a whole lot of things. And the Bible says, forsake not the assembly of the saints. But once the word reaches the people should be able to identify the word in the people to find their community. And I think that's very important. When you find your community, because Jesus was able to find a community and gather people, but he was able to teach them in a way that they wanted to want more from him, and then create a community around what they learned and be able to implement what he said. So my music shapes around that ideology to be able to reach the people where they are, because I always talk about that I'm out of the box, but I'm in the book. So my music is not the typical church sound. Some of the stuff it may sound like some trap music, but when they listen to the words, it's going to begin to minister to the soul and spirit of man to where it will allow them to be awakened, just as God asked Ezekiel's, can these bones live? And so he said, prophesy to the bones. And so my music, the prophecy that's going to be released next week, I'm prophesying to the bones inside of man that look dead, that they can live. And once they begin to hear the sound, because there is an ear, he said, he that have an ear must hear what the Spirit is saying. And this project is spirit breath. The Spirit of God is breathing all through this project. I'm telling you. So I'm going to have an album release next Saturday. and I'm excited about that. I'm also will be filming a short film, a movie to go along with the actual album release. I'll be releasing a movie to follow into that's leading into the album release, and that will also be released as well. So I'm excited about that. The movie is going to be called The Prophecy. So it's going to show that journey leading into climaxing into the album release party. So I'm excited about that.
And the church doors are open. So how many songs do you have on your album?
Right now, I believe that there are 12 songs, if not 13 songs. It's
Okay.
13 songs.
Okay.
And
All right.
on the album, I would like to say this, that the album ends with a tribute from the Rogers family. I actually went and sat with my family in Mississippi, and we sat around and sang, and that music will
Wow.
be on the ending of the album, which was my foundation of where music started in my life. So I end the album, The Prophecy, with a sound from my family where
Wow.
we are singing with no music, just pure voices. And that's the end of the album. So I'm looking forward to that, and it's called The Rogers Family.
Wow. Well, I'd like to purchase three of your albums. I mean, three of your CDs, and just send
Okay,
it to
well, I
us, send it
appreciate
to us so I
that.
can just pass it on to the viewers, whoever first, second, or third caller were to call in. So I'm down for three. Just put me down for three.
All right, I got you.
Also, you have some YouTube videos out there on YouTube.
Yes, I have the songs that I released, which one is Left It With God. I have an animated 3D 3D video that goes with that particular song. They can watch it on YouTube under my channel. They also can see the song I Don't Care. That's on there as well. I have a video with that. And then the other song, Cover Me, which I released a video as well. The very first song I released was called Your Love, and it went to over 100-some countries in the first 2 days.
Okay.
The number one country was Israel, and the number two country, it's both of the countries are in war right now. It's the one with that's in war with Russia. I can never say the
Yeah.
country name.
I know you're talking about. They just
Right, but those two countries, my song was number one in both of those countries, playing on the
Wow.
radio stations there. So it just speaks to the power in the words, and that two war countries latched on. And the name of the song is called Your Love. It's saying that the love of God will never change, regardless of what you're going through. And so I do wanted to add that.
Right. Now, before I let you go, you mentioned about your music, how it's going to minister to people who do not go to church. Do you see a big difference in today's society as far as going to church before the pandemic, or what's the difference now? Because I know a lot of people don't go to church now. They stay at home and flip through the YouTube and see different services and vice versa, but it's not going back to the church house.
Well, I think that COVID, for some it was a blessing. For COVID, for some it was a curse. But I think right now, spiritually, the climate that we are in, the day of the brick and mortar has really faded out. Right now, God is moving in grassroots campaigns to where he's now moving in the streets to the people directly. And the people that God is using are the people who you don't think will be used. Those that he's raising up that are what I call the no names. And that's why you have a lot of people that are coming up. The difference that you will know who they are is by revelation, because they're going to carry the mysteries of the kingdom that God himself is going to release to the people to begin to prophesy and minister a word. Because in this season that we are in, it's going to take a prophetic voice, authentic prophetic voice, an apostolic voice that's going to begin to lead the people into the next dimension of where we're going and where God is calling the church to be. And what God is doing, he's calling the church out. He's calling them in to call them out, to call them up. And that's where we have to go, because there must be an elevation and a capacity increase in the people that have, one, been in church already, and those who have probably never come to the church for whatever reason. But there must be a spiritual increase in their capacity, one, to receive, and then two, to pour back out what God has placed into the people. So people are not really looking into going into the building per se, but again, you may reach more people through a live streaming versus going into the actual building. And I think we have to get out of that because we are the church. It's not about going into a physical building, but we're the people. We are the church. We are the light bearers. We carry the word. We're the vessels. And so that's most important.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you. Is there anything major coming up next other than the album coming out next month?
Well, I'm actually on tour right now. The tour started last week. I just sung in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'll be tomorrow actually performing in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. And then following that, I'll be singing on tour in Miami. I have New York, Washington, D.C., Brooklyn, New York. And I mean, the list goes on. You can follow me on all platforms as YouTube, Instagram, also Spotify. I mean, every major platform I'm pretty much on. You can see my tour information. I'm excited about that. I'm able to meet so many people each night. We had a sold out crowd in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I was excited about that. And so tomorrow night I'll be performing as well. So I'm just doing what God called me to do.
Wow. Unbelievable. Any inspiring words you would like to lead or the viewers who's watching right now?
Well, I mean, I said a lot,
Yes,
but I
you
will
did.
just say this. In everything that you do, your most important thing in life is you want to understand what your assignment is. What is it that God called you to do? What is it that God has placed you or here on this earth? When he said, I knew you when you was in your mother's womb, it is your responsibility to find out what he knew about you so that you could begin to come into the knowledge of who God has called you to be. As the prodigal son in the pig's pen, the Bible said he came to himself. That was one of the most powerful things to me. And when he came to himself, he remembered that in his father's house, he was honored. So he was able to go back. So I'm encouraging everybody that's watching this to come to yourself. There must be a come to yourself meeting to begin to say, there is something in my father's house that is treasured there for me to access in order for me to walk into full capacity in the assignment that he's called me to do while I'm alive so that you can die empty as well. That's all I got.
All right, Prophet Dr. Robinson. Thank you for coming on the show this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity as well. I appreciate it.
So you have a nice weekend and feel free to come back anytime. Make sure you send me those 3 CDs so I can distribute them for you.
Okay, I will make sure I do that. And they can also purchase the album on Amazon. You can go on Amazon and purchase it. You can also purchase it through other platforms as well. But I will make sure you get that link, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, appreciate it. You enjoy your rest of the weekend.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, you heard it there. Dr. Prophet Robin. Wow, what a treat. What a treat. I am was very honored because we was doing phone texts back and forth, and I finally got in contact with her, and we set it up, and she's here to end the Black History Month. A message from Prophet Dr. Robin. Next week, guest. I'm laughing because the next week guest is me. I'm laughing because next week is my 1-year anniversary. Yes, next week is my 1 year, and I've been on the air for 1 year. I started March, the first Friday in March, and Brother Lee is going to be he's going to be my co-host next week because he's been there with me from day one, giving the message at the end of the show, and we're going to discuss some of the pros and cons that I went through. Technical difficulties. I remember my first show, when my pastor was on, Reverend Chris, and that was a disaster. I'm here to tell you because I was nervous, everything was going wrong, And I was apologizing so much, people were saying, will you stop apologizing? But self-consciously, I wasn't thinking that I was apologizing. But anyway. But right now, we're going to bring on Reverend Lee. What about you, Lee?
Well. Praise the Lord. And we do thank God for another blessed day. But most of all, we thank God for a 1-year anniversary. Stewart Spotlight has been shining the light of those who have excellent stories, a story to tell. And we are just so privileged to be a part of this ministry, a part of this spotlight. And then tonight, we so grateful was graced the presence of Dr. Robin. Man, listen, I could see visions of this up and coming year, many people being blessed, changed, and delivered based on the stories that they will tell and their testimonies. So I'm going to say a special prayer tonight that God will move in a special way, that the Spirit of the Lord will guide and deliver and set free, and touch the lives of many of those that hear this broadcast or this podcast and be able to be touched. Eternal God, our Father, we just thank you now. Blessed experience. We thank you.
Reverend Lee video has froze. So, well, I guess his video has froze. So, I guess we'll give a prayer next week when he interviewed me. But before we depart, I always want to give my Bible verse for the week. And the Bible verse comes from 2 Corinthians 5:7. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Also, I need a special prayer for my sister. She was in a hospital, and now she's in a rehab to learn to walk, get her strength back up. Please keep me and my family in prayers. As we about to close, I want to thank you. I really want to thank you. Next week will be 1 year. Despite the difficulties I had, despite the technical problems I had, I want to thank all of the guests who appeared on the show to help me out. I want to thank the individuals who religiously watch me every Friday, who always giving me a compliment, who always giving me things to do or clean up or just to help me out. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And also, I want to say a special prayer for my friend Daryl Williams, who's out there, but I have to give him a call because, that was really odd for him to call me at the 99th hour. So with that being said, everybody have a nice weekend. Make sure you tune in next week to hear 1 year of episodes. Have a nice evening and good night.